"Don't touch me!" She begged the Duke, but he saw. The bruises and everything changed. The candlelight flickered across Lady Eleanor's face as she pressed herself against the cold stone wall of the ballroom alcove, her breathing shallow and rapid. Duke Alexander Thornwood had only meant to retrieve his pocket watch from where it had fallen near the curtains, but the sound of his footsteps had sent her scrambling backward like a frightened animal. When he instinctively reached out to steady her, her whispered plea cut through the air like broken glass. "Don't touch me." The words were barely audible, yet they carried the weight of 1,000 unspoken horrors. In that moment, as moonlight streamed through the tall windows and illuminated the purple-blue shadows along her collarbone, bruises her lace collar had failed to conceal, Alexander felt something fundamental shift within his chest. The gilded world of London's aristocracy suddenly seemed impossibly hollow. Eleanor Ashford had learned to make herself invisible. In the 3 years since her father's death had forced her into marriage with Lord Victor Ashford, she had perfected the art of fading into wallpaper, of speaking only when spoken to, of hiding the evidence of her husband's rage beneath high collars and long sleeves. Tonight's ball at the Thornwood estate was supposed to be safe, a rare evening away from Victor's suffocating presence while he conducted business in the city. She had allowed herself the dangerous luxury of relaxing, of enjoying the music, of remembering what it felt like to be human rather than merely a target. But then the Duke had appeared and panic had seized her throat. Men like him, powerful, commanding, they were all the same, weren't they? They took what they wanted without asking. They crushed whatever stood in their path. Alexander Thornwood, however, was staring at her with an expression Eleanor couldn't quite interpret. Not anger, not desire. Something that looked almost like sorrow. He took a deliberate step backward, raising his hands where she could see them, palms open and unthreatening. "Forgive me, Lady Ashford," he said quietly, his voice stripped of the jovial tone he'd carried throughout the evening's festivities. "I did not mean to startle you. I was only—" He paused, his dark eyes searching her face. "Are you quite well?" The kindness in his voice was somehow worse than cruelty would have been. Eleanor felt her carefully constructed walls beginning to crack. "I'm perfectly fine, Your Grace," she lied, the practiced words tumbling out automatically. "I simply became overheated. The crush of the ballroom, you understand?" But Alexander was no fool. He had seen the bruises. He had seen the terror in her eyes, not the startled surprise of an embarrassed lady caught in a compromising position, but the bone-deep fear of someone who had learned that pain was always just one wrong word away. "Lady Ashford," he said slowly, carefully, as if approaching a wounded bird, "you are not fine, and I suspect you have not been fine for quite some time." The tears came before Eleanor could stop them, hot and shameful down her cheeks. She pressed her hand to her mouth, horrified at her loss of control. Ladies did not cry at balls. Ladies did not reveal their private sufferings to strangers. Ladies, most certainly, did not crumble in front of one of the most influential men in England. "I'm sorry," she gasped. "Please forget you saw me like this. I'll return to the ballroom. You'll do nothing of the sort," Alexander interrupted gently. "And you have nothing to apologize for." He pulled a handkerchief from his pocket and offered it to her, taking care not to come closer. "Whatever has happened to you, Lady Ashford, I give you my word. You are safe here. In my home, you are protected." Those words, "you are safe," were so foreign to Eleanor's experience that they barely made sense. When was the last time she had felt safe? Before her marriage, certainly. Before her father's death. Before she had learned that a woman's word meant nothing against a lord's reputation. "My husband will come for me soon," she whispered, accepting the handkerchief with trembling fingers. "He'll expect me to—" "Your husband," Alexander said, and now there was steel beneath the gentleness, "is currently detained in the city. I took the liberty of ensuring he would not be able to attend this evening." Eleanor's head snapped up. "What?" "I have known Lord Ashford for many years," the Duke continued, his jaw tight. "I have watched him become increasingly volatile, increasingly cruel. I have heard whispers, rumors I foolishly dismissed as gossip, but I see now that I should have acted sooner." He met her eyes directly. "Tell me truthfully, Lady Ashford, Are those bruises his work? The question hung in the air between them. Eleanor knew she should deny it, should protect her husband's reputation, as wives were expected to do, should preserve the illusion of domestic harmony that society demanded. But she was so tired of lying. Yes, she breathed. And with that single word, the dam broke entirely. Yes, he did this. He does this. He's done it since our wedding night, and I have nowhere to go. No one who would believe me. No means to escape. My father left me penniless. Victor controls everything, my money, my movements, my very existence. I am trapped, Your Grace, and tonight was supposed to be my one evening of peace. But even here I cannot stop looking over my shoulder, waiting for the next blow to fall. Alexander's hands had clenched into fists at his sides, but his voice remained steady. You are not trapped anymore. Not if I can help it. You don't understand, Eleanor said desperately. You're a duke. You have power beyond imagining. But even you cannot undo a legal marriage. Even you cannot stop a man from doing as he wishes with his own property, which is what I am. In the eyes of the law, perhaps not, Alexander acknowledged. But I can offer you sanctuary. I can use my influence to ensure you are never alone with him again. I can connect you with others who have escaped similar circumstances. Yes, Lady Ashford, there are others, and they have found ways to survive. He took a careful step closer. I cannot promise you that the road ahead will be easy, but I can promise you that you will not walk it alone. Eleanor stared at him, searching for the deception she felt certain must be lurking beneath his words. Men like him didn't help women like her, not without expecting something in return, not without some ulterior motive. But all she saw in Duke Thornwood's face was genuine, concern and a fierce determination that took her breath away. Why? She whispered. Why would you risk your reputation for me? I'm nobody. I'm nothing. You are not nothing, Alexander said firmly. You are a human being who deserves to live without fear. And as for why, he paused, something vulnerable flickering across his features. My mother endured what you're enduring. She suffered in silence for years before my father finally drank himself to death. By then, the damage was done. She died believing she had no value beyond what a man decided she was, worth. His voice roughened. I was too young to save her, but I'm not too young to save you. In that moment, Eleanor Ashford made a choice. She could continue as she had been, surviving day by day, waiting for Victor's temper to eventually kill her. Or she could take the hand being offered to her. Metaphorically, of course, since the Duke was carefully maintaining his distance, and fight for something better. What do I need to do? She asked, and was surprised by the strength in her own voice. Alexander's expression softened with relief. First, we get you somewhere secure. I have a cousin who runs a country estate in Yorkshire. She's a widow, fiercely independent, and she's helped other women in your position. Victor won't think to look for you there. Then we'll work on securing your independence legally. It will take time and considerable effort, but it can be done. He'll be furious, Eleanor said, fear clutching at her heart. He'll come after me. Let him try, the Duke replied with quiet confidence. He'll find me standing in his way, and behind me he'll find every decent person I can rally to your cause. You are not alone anymore, Lady Ashford. That I swear to you. 2 years later, Eleanor sat in a sunlit garden in Yorkshire, watching butterflies dance among the roses. She wore a simple dress of soft blue cotton, her sleeves short enough to reveal arms free of bruises. Her marriage to Victor had been dissolved through a special act of Parliament, a scandal that had rocked society but which Alexander Thornwood had navigated with unwavering support. Victor himself was now facing his own reckoning, as other women had found the courage to come forward with their own stories. Eleanor had discovered something unexpected in her freedom, a talent for business. With Alexander's help, she had invested the small inheritance she'd managed to secure and had started a refuge for other women fleeing violent marriages. The work was challenging but deeply meaningful. She heard footsteps on the garden path and looked up to see Alexander approaching, his face breaking into a smile when he saw her. Still working? He asked, gesturing to the correspondence spread across the garden table. Always, she replied, smiling back. 3 more women arrived this week. They'll need placement, training, support. You're changing lives, Alexander said softly. You know that, don't you? Eleanor considered this. She thought of the woman she had been 2 years ago, terrified, broken, convinced she had no value. And she thought of the woman she was becoming, strong, purposeful, surrounded by others who understood her journey. "We're changing lives," she corrected. "You saw someone who needed help, and you chose kindness over indifference. That choice created ripples that are still spreading." Alexander sat down across from her, his eyes warm. "I once told you that you were not alone. I'd like to renew that promise if you'll let me. Not as a duke offering patronage to a charity, but as—" he hesitated, suddenly uncertain in a way she'd never seen from him before. "As someone who would very much like to be part of your life. If that's something you might want as well." Eleanor felt her heart expand with a joy she'd forgotten was possible. She had learned that she didn't need a man to save her. She had saved herself. But choosing to share her life with someone who saw her as an equal, who had proven his integrity through action rather than words, that wasn't weakness. That was choosing love after surviving hate. "I'd like that very much," she said, reaching across the table to take his hand, on her own terms, in her own time, with no fear at all. The bruises had healed long ago, but the scars they left behind had become, part of her story, a reminder that survival was possible, that kindness could change everything, and that sometimes the most powerful thing a person could do was simply choose to see another's suffering and refuse, to look away